All right, so we're going to talk today about a post that I made the other day, I think yesterday. Let's double check that. Um, yes, yesterday, post that I made talking about. Oh, no. Wow, we're off to a great start. We're going to talk about a post I made earlier today on Instagram and on Facebook titled, You're Not Going to Get There by Talking About It. And before we get into that, though, as anybody tunes in, I'd love to hear how your day is going. What's what you've been up to today? Any big wins? Anything that you're excited about that's coming up? And then pretty soon here we'll get into the post that I made and why I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that. So, really, the main idea behind these live streams, again, we've done them a little bit. I fell off last week, but we're back at it. I'm recommitting to making sure that I'm here more than just that once a week like I was starting, because I've been working a lot on myself, and that's a little bit of what we're talking about with that post today. So I'm committing to being here for these live streams 5 times a week now. Every evening when I get back from the gym, I'm going to be coming on here for a little bit, talking a little bit about things that I'm running into in my career, things that I know athletes run into in their careers, and just items and topics that are near and dear to me as a coach, me as a person, and hopefully can help some of you guys out there too. So as we get into it, the people I want to be listening to these live streams, if you do tune in and you are one of these people or know some of these people, are going to be athletes for first, but then beyond that, talking to coaches, talking to parents of athletes, talking to anyone involved in that journey of really helping athletes become the best version of themselves and be able to elongate their careers and create the dream careers that they're looking for. So we'll get into it now. And like I said, the talk in this live stream is talking about how you're not going to get there by talking about it. And the reason that I wanted to get into this is because this is something that I know myself, I have struggled with over the years for sure. Been one of those people that, has a lot of big goals and a lot of big dreams, but in the past wasn't really the most action oriented person. And when I was able to change my life around entirely was when I started realizing exactly that. I started realizing that sitting around talking about how great I'm going to be at something one day isn't actually going to get me there, isn't actually going to move me any further towards those goals. And as a result, it was a big change for me. And I think that's a big change that a lot of people out there still need. So hopefully, if you're listening to this can be that moment where you realize that, if you have something big that you want to accomplish in your life, you've actually got to start working for it instead of sitting around and talking about how great it's going to be one day. Because so often people get stuck in that, right? They get stuck in sitting around talking about, how great they're going to be in a sport, how great their business is going to be once they, get it off the ground. Like just in so many different areas, I hear people talk about that all the time, how, oh yeah, it's not there yet, but it's coming. And when it comes, be ready. And then years and years and years later, you ask them about that same idea and it's still coming. It's going to be there one day, but it's not quite here yet, but we're going to get there. And so that's why I really wanted to get into this, because that was me with my coaching career for a long time. I was always talking about how I wanted to run a gym one day. I was always talking about how I wanted to coach athletes one day. But for the longest time, I never really did anything towards it. And what was really able to let my career take off was when I actually started putting in action, putting in execution every day towards actually getting there, instead of just sitting around talking about how cool it would be to do that for a living one day. Yeah, so then why do I feel like people get stuck in this? I know for myself, reflecting on it, the reason that I struggled so much actually taking action and actually working towards the goals that I had set, the reason I struggled with that so much was simply fear of failure. Like, it's very easy to sit around and talk about what's going to happen. It's a lot harder to take actionable steps towards it, fail, have to reset, and then have to go again. Fear of failure. And the other big one was fear of judgment. Like, you're when you're going for anything, you're going to have a lot of people that don't believe you can do it. You're going to have a lot of people in your life that tell you you're crazy for trying for it. And you're going to deal with that from every angle. And that was a big one for me. And then again, like I mentioned, it's very easy to sit around and talk about it. It's a lot harder to actually take steps towards it. And it's just that comfort zone, right? It's easy to sit in the comfort zone and talk about how cool everything else could be once you actually once you actually get there. It's a lot harder to actually step out of that comfort zone, put yourself out there, and start to take actionable steps towards what you want. And for me, that was the biggest thing that really helped change my entire life. And I think there are a lot of people that are stuck in that exact same position. They're stuck in the position of, what if I could go start that business? What if I could make it to the next level in my sport? What if I could, accomplish these things that I think about all the time? And instead of actually doing it, instead of actually trying to figure out if they have what it takes, they just sit back. They just let that dream sit in the comfort zone and die over time. And really, I think the big thing is, how do we get through that comfort zone? How do you get through those thoughts and that fear of judgment, that fear of failure? And how do you actually break through to the next levels to take steps towards these things you want to do? And for myself, I know when I was back before I actually started really taking coaching seriously, because I've been doing this for a really long time, but really the last 5 years is where it became a real serious belief that I could actually spend my life coaching professional athletes and running a gym and doing all the awesome things that I get to do now. Before that, the way I started, before that, I was stuck in that comfort zone of kind of flirting with the idea, but never really going for it, never really going all in. And I think the big thing that changed it for me, the big thing that made me decide that it was worth actually trying without even knowing at the time, obviously, if it was going to work, was just the fear of sitting around at 60, 70 years old after having an entire career doing something that I wasn't excited about, wondering what this career could have been. Sitting around at 60 and talking about how, oh yeah, well, if I had pursued strength and conditioning, what could have happened? If I had tried to work with athletes, where could it have gone? What could I have done with it? And the fear of having to sit around and ask that question one day was really the driver behind pursuing this full time and going all in on it. And I think there are a lot of people sitting there in the same position. They want to be an athlete. They want to pursue their sport. They want to really go all in and dedicate their life to something. But they're afraid of people judging them on it. They're afraid of failing on it. What if I put in all this work, all this time, all this effort, and it doesn't lead to what I want? But I think the big thing there even too is if you're a young athlete listening to this and, you're worried about putting in all that time and all that effort into your athletic career and it not leading to the big show, it not leading to the $1 million contracts and all of those things that obviously every young athlete is setting out for, putting that kind of time and effort into anything sets you up for life. Putting that kind of work ethic that you have to put into sports sets you up for whatever it is you do next. Not only that, but it opens doors. Even if you play a couple of years of college hockey, using hockey as an example, if you play a couple of years of college hockey, you're going to meet people that are going to be able to offer you coaching opportunities, that are going to be able to connect you with, hockey skills training companies or scouting opportunities or, whatever else, something that maybe wasn't your original dream, but has put you in a position to spend your life around the sport. And, that's a phenomenal thing as someone who is fortunate enough to spend his life around sports and spend his life around athletes, as I dreamed of when I was a kid. That's an incredible thing. So if you're sitting here right now thinking, I want to pursue my sport, I want to go all in, I want to achieve all of these great things, but you're afraid because your parents, your friends, your family, whoever it is going to think that that's crazy, is going to think that you're nuts for wanting to do all these things. really and truly, you've got two choices. You've got the choice of pursuing it. You've got the choice of going all in. Oh, I'm sorry. Or you have the choice of letting that be your decision maker. You have the choice of letting someone else dictate your future. And if you're going to let somebody else dictate your future, you're going to be sitting around at 40, 50, 60, 70 years old asking yourself, well, could I have made it as an athlete? Or even worse, being that guy sitting around at the bar talking about how great you used to be back in the day, but never having actually done anything with it. And so I think the biggest thing that I want to get across to people with this talk is don't let that fear of failure or that fear of judgment get to you. And I know that that's easier said than done, but really the way I started looking at it when I started really pursuing coaching and I spent time living in horrific living conditions just because it was close to the gym and it was cheap and that's what I could afford. And I had friends making $60, $70, $80,000 a year, and I was sitting there barely scraping rent money together for the first few years. Think about where it's leading. Think about what you're working for. If you're the one pursuing the dream and you're not there yet, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're taking a more difficult path. You didn't just take the easy job out of college. You actually decided to go all in on something. You actually decided to bet on yourself. And that is fucking admirable. So if you're in that position right now where you're pursuing your passion, you're pursuing your sport, you're going all in, you're doing the work, you're putting the time in, and you're seeing your friends out on the weekends, you're seeing, your friends sitting comfortably in their desk job making $60, $70, $80,000 a year, and you're thinking, man, having some of that stability might be really nice. Yeah, maybe it would be, but how much nicer could it be if pursuing this sport, pursuing this game that you love could lead to that being your entire life? Whether it is as an athlete, whether it is as a coach, or, whatever area you end up in within that sport, or whatever you choose to do next. Because not only can sports connect you with opportunities to spend your life in sport, but, if you get to a high enough level, you're meeting people that have connections to businesses. You're meeting people that have connections to all areas of the world. And so if you can be the one that pushes through that tough time, pushes through that time of barely scraping the rent money together when your friends are, making double, triple, quadruple what you're making at the time, but you can be the one that goes the extra mile and continues to pursue their sport against the odds and against the opinions of the people around you. Just keep thinking about what you're pushing towards. Keep thinking, even on those dark days, why are you there? Why are you working for this? Because you don't want to be that guy sitting around 30 years from now asking yourself what you could have been if you had just worked a little harder. You don't want to be that guy sitting around talking to your friends about how you could have gone to the show, but you decided to take the easy way out. Nobody likes that guy. Nobody wants to be around that guy. You want to be the guy who went for it. You want to be the guy, even if you don't make it, you want to be the guy who pursued it and then realized they didn't have it, or pursued it and then had that open up the door to whatever it was they spent their life doing. So if I can leave anybody with a takeaway from this, it's to shut that noise out. You're always going to face those people. You're always going to face the people who don't believe that you have what it takes. You're always going to, face the judgment, face the fear, face the failure sometimes, and being able to shut it out, being able to refocus on yourself, refocus on why you're there, what you're working for, is going to be able to, if not lead to what you've actually set out as your ultimate dream, lead so much closer than if you give up now and you go take that safe, easy route. So I hope you guys got a little bit from this. Like I mentioned, I am recommitting to trying to do this. I'm recommitting to doing this 5 times a week. So every evening when I get back from the gym, I'm going to be throwing this on for 15 to 20 minutes, talking about some things that either I face in my own career, some things that I know athletes are facing out there. and just getting into some details about, the world of high performance sport and things we can do to start helping those athletes again create the best version of themselves and in turn the best possible career for themselves, their families, and the people around them. So thank you. That's it for me. I hope you guys got a little bit out of this. If you do tune in, I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway was below, and have a wonderful rest of your night.